Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by my close friend, a man who, if given the opportunity, we could replace one another because we were born the same day. My good friend and yours, the purveyor of films you may have never seen on YouTube, Father Malone.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captor speaking.
I swear to God, I knew it was coming.
There it is.
It's pretty much the best line in the movie.
Oh, it certainly is.
Which is funny, considering how it's the only line from the film's original script written by our good friend Rich Hatem that remained in the shooting script. So there's that. We will be talking with Richard a little bit later in the podcast. He and Matt Reeves wrote the original script for the film. If Matt Reeves' name sounds familiar, that's because he has gone on to direct such films as the second and third Planet of the Apes film, and he's currently working on, though obviously production's been halted, the upcoming Batman film with Robert Pattinson. So, him and Richard had a massive glow up from this film. But yeah, let's talk about Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
Dark Territory.
A top-secret satellite with nuclear capabilities. A team of international terrorists. A government-held hostage.
President and the others been safely evacuated.
An undetectable moving headquarters.
I'd like to call your attention to the highly trained men with the automatic weapons. They may be called upon to shoot you.
There's only one problem.
Any other heroes?
The cook from Under Siege is back.
I'm not even a good cook, but there are some things I'm good at.
And things are really heating up.
It's a 45, okay?
Yeah. Last time, he rocked the boat. This time, the sky's the limit. Steven Seagal. Under Siege 2.
This, I'm trained for.
So the film is directed by Jeff Murphy. It's written by, like I already mentioned, good friend of the podcast, good friend of mine, Rich Hatem, and Matt Reeves. It stars everybody's favorite monotone, low-talking action star, Steven Seagal. Also, acting powerhouse Katherine Heigl, another acting powerhouse, Morris Chestnut, and then a couple people who are actually really good at acting, Eric Bogosian and Everett McGill. Twin Peaks' Everett McGill. The film follows Steven Seagal reprising his character of Casey Ryback from the first Under Siege film as once again a man on a train, as opposed to on a boat, who has to fight terrorists who wandered onto the wrong train. Father Malone, I know you and I are going to have some very strong opinions about this film, but before we talk about this film, I want to know your uncut, unfiltered opinion on the corndog master himself, Mr. Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal's one of these people that here's the thing. Up until this point, this movie, I think I actually saw all of his films, but that might be an effect of me working in movie theaters my entire life. So right. There they are. You might as well, because I can't say I've ever been a fan of his. And I've always been a little baffled that he had a following. Now, I'm sure this is not the first Seagal.
He still has a following? I mean, they're still making his films.
He's still getting paid to do things.
The percentage of which the film actually features Seagal versus the amount of screen and box space that he takes up on the DVD covers is a different story.
Now, this is not the first Seagal film you've done this month, right?
No, this is the final film for them.
Oh, okay. So I'm sure you've gone over the whole CAA Mike Ovitz star-making situation, right?
Yeah, the fact that Michael Ovitz essentially was not dared himself to create a movie star. And he kind of did.
He kind of did. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you look at the hubris of someone like Michael Ovitz at that time who just thought he was God on earth. He's like, well, I can make my Aikido instructor a movie star. And then he fucking did it. And I don't know how. It's not like Steven Seagal has any personality at all. He's not good looking. I mean, he can fight, obviously. I mean, he's an Aikido master, but watching him fight is, kind of cool. But like any time I have to here's the thing. It's not even like he's a terrible actor. He does the job. Like, I never not believe that the prick on screen is unbelievable. It's just that I don't want to spend any time with him ever, which is probably a key component when it comes to movie stars, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing that we've talked about essentially ad nauseum in this point, and we'll continue to beat it into the ground. With someone like Seagal, the less that is asked of him, the better. He really thrives when the film is not asking him to do much more than look menacing and badass, which, I mean, he has the look. I don't think there's any, in these early films. I mean, now it's kind of like Arnold and JCVD and Stallone. It's like, guys, I know that this was your brand, but, age takes its toll.
Yeah.
The Father Time waits for no man, regardless of how big his muscles are. And Seagal and Arnie and JCVD and, Stallone and Dolph, they all kind of, Dolph less so. Dolph Lundgren is, I think, the exception that proves the rule. They all kind of aren't really able to let it go because they're still profitable. And so with someone like Seagal, I mean, he's best when he's not being asked to do much, and those early films were definitely, less is more. But then you come to something like this, which is his first sequel, a sequel to a film that, for all intents and purposes, I think a lot of people that's the only Seagal film that they've seen, and it's widely considered to be his best film. I wouldn't agree with that, but I think it is a good action movie. I actually just rewatched it to prep for this podcast because I hadn't seen Under Siege since we did a podcast on it. Oh God, 5-6 years ago, probably 5 years ago. So
he's a black hole of charisma.
I mean, there's you see it from time to time. Like there's like a glimmer of it. There's like a glimmer man of it. But you can see little glimmers
absolutely.
of it, but it's like he just doesn't get it.
No, I think any sort of moments where he seems charming, it's all through editing. Like, I don't think him trying to be charming works at all. I'm sure these are like alternate takes where he was like unaware the camera was on or something, and he looks okay. And I'm sure he's got to be in some way.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Like affable, at least at this point, or maybe a couple years before this, like when he was sort of starting out. But, God, I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't know where he came from, and I don't know why he won't go away. Like, you mentioned all the other aging film stars, and it's like, I can get it. Like, they don't know anything else, and it's all anyone wants of them, so they're going to still hump it out there. But this guy has been such a monumental joke, to me anyway, since the get-go, that I still don't... You know what's so funny, Chris? I remember at the time, I don't know if it was for this movie... I saw him interviewed on a talk show. Oh, you know what? It was right after Goodfellas came out, because he was talking about Goodfellas. And in the interview, like, you know how people do like a talk show, they do a pre-interview about what they want to talk about, like other than just promoting the movie. So you know that this is his subject, that he said, this is what I want to talk about, which was the violence in Goodfellas was so beyond the pale that it like should have been either rated X or never released. And then you look at every single one of his films, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, you lunatic? Violence with consequence is bad, but, you know, violence for the sake of him looking great, that's cool.
I mean, he has kind of moved out of the realm of killing characters in his movies, and I think it was around the time of The Glimmer Man when he showed up on set and was like, I'm not killing anyone. And it's like, oh, okay, so we have to change the entire movie now, thanks.
Yeah, I'm now spiritual.
Yeah, Nehru jackets and, Buddhist lifestyle. Whatever you look, like, I'm not going to hate on a guy for his belief system, but I am going to hate on a guy for being a creep, which he is. I don't know if you saw the anecdotal story from another acting powerhouse in the film, Katherine Heigl, who was 16 at the time the film was made. Steven Seagal told her that, quote, Katie, I got girlfriends your age. Her response was, isn't that illegal? To which Seagal responded, they don't seem to mind. So... Yeah. I mean, and
class act.
That is one of the things we've heard so much about with Seagal is the allegations against him regarding, sexual abuse, sexual assault, sexual harassment. I mean, we've heard about this. This is not like a new thing that's being leveled against him, but it's just like, dude, you have no self-awareness at all.
Yeah, I told you this story off the air a while ago where I had a friend who was a kind of a minor executive at a film company, and they were trying to lure Seagal to do one of their films and had to meet him on set of another movie. And she came to his trailer and went inside, and he had a script face down in front of him, and he was crying. She said there was literally tears in his face. And he turned to her and he said, oh my God, I've just read the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my entire life. And when he gave her the script, it was a script that he had written. So that's the kind of guy we're dealing with here.
Well, again, it goes back to he doesn't get who he is, and I think he thinks he's some great Lothario action star come
musician
world unifier.
Yeah, he thinks he's a man of letters and just a Renaissance man in general. You're going to see his fingers. Not only is he an
actor, he's also a musician.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
and an
particularly
author.
With this film, with the end credits, that final song written by Steven Seagal,
and an author, I might add.
Oh yeah, naturally,
and someone who owns triple citizenship in 3 countries around the world: America, Serbia, and Russia. One of those things is not like the other. One of those things is not a dictatorship.
That's true.
Well, you know, 6 doesn't have the other. But let's talk a little bit about Under Siege 2 now that we've thoroughly drugged Steven Seagal through the mud once again. I don't dislike this movie.
No, I actually liked it.
I think if you take it outside of the context of the original film, I think it works better if you watch it and the first film back to back in a double feature. I think this film suffers a lot, but I think this film has the same good things going for it that the original did, and it has the same problems that the original did as well. They didn't change a lot of the problems. They didn't fix them. They just kind of let them fester.
Yeah, I am in the minority of people in that I don't like the first Under Siege movie. I thought it was okay. I thought some of the action's pretty good. Script's better, obviously. It had some pretty good lines in it. But I thought, look, at this time in Hollywood, everyone was just trying to do Die Hard on this and Die Hard in that and, as many variations on Die Hard as we can get. So
and that's
was
what
effectively
Under Siege, the original Under Siege is. It's Die Hard on a boat.
Yeah, Die Hard on a naval ship. Sure, okay. And now we've got Die Hard on a train. And there's nothing wrong with that model. Die Hard works well because it's solid. But what people never seem to understand is the reason Die Hard works is sort of alchemical. It's like, yeah, the plot is good, but it's also the characters and the dialogue and the actors and the direction. It's like, it's all of that together made that a great movie. So just trapping a bunch of characters in one location while, there's a random good guy running around trying to solve all the problems, that in and of itself is not spectacular. It's not going to make a good movie. And that seemed to be, to me, the case with the first Under Siege movie, which I didn't like. And I will say that when I saw this movie, and I saw this in the theater, I saw it in Westwood, probably opening weekend. And I went because, like I said, I did not like the first one. So there was no way I was going to go see the sequel. But then I noticed that Eric Bogosian was the villain. And I was like, oh, well, that's pretty fucking interesting. So I'll go see it. And I did not like the movie actively when I saw it the first time. Now, however many years later, when did the movie come out? 94?
95, actually.
95. Okay, so that's what? 25 years ago?
25 years ago.
Wow. So a quarter century later, my reevaluation is like, yeah, if you're not comparing it to anything, if it's just this random movie you're watching, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. I can't say I didn't have a good time watching the movie, because I did. I mean, look, yes, it has huge problems, the main one being Seagal and his total lack of charisma, but he doesn't manage to sink this movie. No pun intended.
I mean, I would agree. Again, a lot of these Seagal films come back to this inherent issue that I think you and I both clearly have, and I would say almost everyone this month has had with Seagal, and his inability to know what kind of movie he's in and really play to that audience. Because, like we've talked about before this month, he's doing the Clint Eastwood bit his entire career. He's talking really soft. He's kind of carrying himself in a way that doesn't belie what he's doing until he does it to you. I mean, that's his character. Is, he's not in motion for very long. He's in motion, then he's out of motion. And you notice that when you watch these films. I mean, the fight scenes are very fast. They're not prolonged at all. And in this film, it runs into the same problems that a lot of his later early films do, and now his more recent films, which is he's the best at everything. No one can attack him or do any damage to him, and he kills everybody insanely fast. I mean, we saw it on
that. I definitely noticed.
We saw it on Fire Down Below. He does it in every movie that we've seen, aside from the early film Marked for Death and the earlier films that we haven't talked about this month, where the villains actually get in some licks on.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
On Seagal, he just goes, okay, boom, you're dead, or boom, I'll break your neck, or boom, I'll kill you, just like that. And it's like, oh God, like, what's even the conflict then? These guys can't do anything.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I think part of that is, I gotta say, I'm going to give him a little credit. Part of it is because of his respect for Aikido.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, he definitely
wants to portray it as it is, which would be fast. But as you said, that doesn't make for good cinema. And he also, like you said, like he does not understand why people are there. They're there for the movies work in spite of him. And he never figured that out. So, like, once he sort of came across, like, Mr. Badass, nobody can touch me in the first film, he thought, that's it. I got to keep doing that. Whereas every other action star, as infallible as they end up being by the end, they, these guys knew their places to stretch and, try new things. And Seagal never did, man. He's always the same boring fucking guy. It's like, you can't even say it's like a movie star thing. It's like, like Cary Grant was Cary Grant no matter what the movie he was in. So there's a place for it, except he's just so, I don't know, man. I'm just repeating myself. He's so unwatchable. Like, how is he still a thing?
I mean, look, here's the thing. I mean, you have actors like Armand Asante and some of these smaller action stars early on who, similar to Seagal, kind of pass under the bar and get in with the other crowd, right? And Seagal, I think he's one of these guys that's like seen as an action star, like an action star in the vein of Arnold and JCVD and Stallone. And it's like he doesn't belong in that group because that group, at least Arnold, and for me personally, Arnold is kind of the pinnacle of action star. Arnold understood what he needed to do and when he needed to do it, and he could turn it off and on. And Seagal just doesn't have it. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have the ability to flick the switch and say, okay, I'm on, okay, I'm off. And when you have something like Under Siege 2, where he needs to be able to turn it on and off, he is always on. But the problem with Seagal being on is even when Seagal is on, for other actors and other action stars, that is their offsetting. And it's like, dude, you can't sleepwalk. I mean, again, like we've talked about it all this month, and it is kind of getting a little old at this point to keep bringing it up, but it's almost like he's sleepwalking through this film.
Every film.
I wouldn't say every film, because in Marked for Death, he's less sleepwalking. But again, when he's being asked to be in these situations that aren't the world is going to end if you don't solve the problem, his lack of enthusiasm feels more justified than in a film like this, where it's like they're threatening to use a satellite to blow up cities. And it's like, dude, you need to care about, like, you need to, like, give a shit about this. And, like, playing reserved all the time just doesn't work.
He's more interested in saving the hostages, because he's just that kind of guy. He's so nice, you know? He wants to save the lives of the people in front of him.
Talk about a bright spot in this film, though.
Yes, let's.
Eric Bogosian.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, man. I've been an Eric Bogosian fan for fucking ever. I saw him do Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll live back in 91 in Boston. In fact, they shot, if you see the film version of that movie, I'm in the audience for that. I love him. And he's actually, weirdly, he's from the town over from me where I actually had my first job, Woburn, Massachusetts. But anyway, personal connections aside, I think he's always interesting. He always makes good choices. And he got the role here, which sort of true to the, we're just making Die Hard and this, that, and the other thing. Everyone tries to do or get close to Hans Gruber. They try and either they're going for that level of menace or they go so over the top that it's just unbearable. And he kind of plays it a whole other way. This is kind of a guy who is kind of a lunatic, but he's not like frothing at the mouth. And he's not, I like
kind
that
of
he
proto
knew.
Mark Zuckerberg in a way.
Yeah, I liked how much he knew he was not intimidating.
Right. Well, that's why you have the other best part of this movie as his heavy, which was a weird choice given the things that essentially I know him from and you know him from and pretty much anybody knows him from because he's done his career similarly to Seagal and Heigl has been an interesting one to say least. Everett McGill playing your heavy is such a weird choice.
Yeah, it really is. And it works like gangbusters. I think he gives the best performance in the entire film.
I would agree.
The number 2 baddie should never be that good, but man, oh man, he certainly he is a creepy motherfucker in this movie. And I know he can be kind of creepy he's done it in other parts and everything, but he also seems so decent and good that the level of sort of perversity behind this guy's motivations was really great.
Do you know what we call that one? We call that one Muad'Dib. I mean, look, Everett McGill is amazing in everything I've seen him in. Even in the shitty episode of Werewolf, the Fox TV series that he was in, which we talked about in another podcast I was on, he's great in that. He's great in License to Kill. He's amazing in Dune. I mean, he's great in everything I've ever seen him in, obviously.
Did you ever see Silver Bullet?
I have not.
You got to see that. Based on a Stephen King story with, weirdly enough, Gary Busey, who's the number 2 heavy in the previous Under Siege movie. They're both in Silver Bullet. He plays a preacher who is the werewolf in the movie, and he is scary as fuck in it.
I will say, though, I think that characterization's a little off. Gary Busey in the first film does jack shit. Everett McGill in this film is at least physically intimidating. Gary Busey in the first film dresses in drag, kills the main one of the characters that Seagal is protecting, and then fucks off to a submarine and gets blown up.
Yeah. Well, all the performances in the first film I found a bit over the top and jarring. And anyway, I mean, even Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones is okay.
You show up to that movie for one reason, and that's for Tommy Lee Jones's performance. And even that is
it's okay.
Complete bombastic nonsense.
Yeah, man. It's like, I know what kind of movie this is. I'm just going to have some fun.
I mean, to be fair, the reason you show up to that movie is to see Erica Liniak's big titties. But we'll cut that part out of the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the true, that's the bon appetito moment of that film.
Yeah, they don't, they kind of, that's missing in this one, right?
Well, that's the thing about this movie is the first film is R, and this one's PG-13 is what it feels like. It is rated R.
No, I think it's R. It's got to be R.
It is R, but it feels like a PG-13 film.
Right.
That's my point. Like, I know it's R, you know it's R, but I don't think it knows that it's R.
No.
At all.
And, well, we'll get to Seagal again later, but, like I said, I think the villains are really solid here. Even down to like third string Peter Green as one of the flunkies. Fucking Mike Ehrmantraut there. What's his name?
Jonathan Banks.
Jonathan Banks, man. He's got one quick, it's a cliche line, but, like the cast mostly is really solid in this movie. Like, I like.
By the way, you literally could say for any Seagal movie that we've seen up.
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
And to this point, the secondary cast, the supporting actors, are given way more to do than Seagal, and they knock it out of the park every time.
So maybe that's one of the secrets of the success, is to surround him with so many good and maybe underrated people and let them fucking go. So people are being entertained without their knowledge at the the horrible center.
And what's funny is this film does really follow, a lot of these Seagal films follow kind of the James Bond formula, which is you have the hero and the villain, and then the villain's heavy is the one that should be who the final fight takes place between. Mm-hmm. And in none of these movies is that ever the case. In On Deadly Ground, Arlie Ermey's character gets iced immediately once Seagal runs up to him. Fire Down Below, same thing happened. In this film, you have Everett McGill just, killed unceremoniously. In the first Under Siege, Gary Busey's character just gets blown up in a submarine, essentially off screen. And to me, it's like that works with James Bond because James Bond has never been the most physically intimidating guy. He uses his wits and his gadgets and his training to be the competent agent. And when you have someone like Seagal, who is physically intimidating in this film, you can't have the main villain be a squirrely asshole, and he's the main villain, and they, similarly to Michael Caine in On Deadly Ground, I don't want to see them fight because I know what happens if these two characters get into a fight together. Yeah. Seagal is going to wipe the floor, ceiling, and windows with them.
Well, what I think is funny is this, I think, was a trend in the 90s sort of in general with movies, particularly action movies. Well, only action movies, honestly, where the principle heavy, when they go, we need to see them suffering. It seemed to be a hallmark of 90s action. Like, it wasn't enough for Bogosian's character to get shot and fall off a train, and then they show him clearly laying in a really, the worst effect shot I've ever seen of Bogosian laying beside the train as it's racing onto the bridge where the other train is approaching. Then after all of that, he manages to jump onto the helicopter ladder to be lifted away. What the fuck is going on here? What? We have to see him punished 3 times. First shot, then he hits the ground, and then he gets immolated.
But he doesn't look immolated. But he doesn't look immolated when he jumps on that ladder at the end.
No, but when he's falling off of the ladder, he's just a ball of flame.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. He's immolated. It would be like if in GoldenEye,
Sean Bean's character, who fell all the way to the bottom of that dish and has the thing land on him, magically jumps on the ladder at the end. Or magically jumps on the helicopter. It's like,
I don't think we punished the villain enough.
4 times over.
Yeah. Like, Seagal is just like, well, I want to kick him into the fire. Like, Because I'm sure most of this movie was Seagal showing up on set and just going, today I think we should do this way. I mean, I'm sure you read what I read, which is like, Morris Chestnut saying he would just walk up to me at the beginning of the day and he goes, okay, here's what I'm going to say and here's what you're going to say. But now he just had the clout to enforce it. And, what are you going to do? Oh, I mentioned that one of the reasons I went to see the movie was Eric Bogosian. The other reason I went to see it was the director, Jeff Murphy. It was an Australian director. He's made some dogs, but he's also made some really good movies. And he's always been a solid action filmmaker. Like, even if the movie itself was kind of a failure, any action scene within it is going to be really good. And he died a few years ago, but he did all of the second unit camera work for the Lord of the Rings films. And I think he delivers that here. I think, even mercifully, there are other action sequences in this film that do not involve Steven Seagal, so they last longer than 30 seconds, and he doesn't end up with a scratch on himself. Like, taking the train, even to begin with, that's all solid. All of the sort of off-the-train kind of action is really good. The stuff with Morris Chestnut, in the forest and everything. Everything except for the fucking bad special effects on the cliff, which were terrible. I think this is a solid action movie.
I think also when you look at someone like Brian Helgeland, who was brought in to rewrite the script, looking at the stuff that he's worked on since,
yeah,
it smacks of it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense that this is the guy who made this script and took a script that the two other people who they're both immensely talented people, Matt Reeves and Rich, and you take it to a level that it kind of muddies everything and makes it really muddle-headed. I
didn't know it was Brian Helgeland who did the rewrite of it.
Yep.
But it makes sense now that you told me.
Right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's...
I mean, I don't know. The script's not that bad. Again, I like I said, this is just sort of a B-level action movie at the end of the day. And it accomplishes what it sets out to do.
But it's billed like an A-level action movie.
Yeah, I mean, it wants to be Die Hard, but it's it's
every movie wants to be Die Hard. Every movie wants to be Jaws. I mean, right? I mean, isn't that the dream?
Of course. But, they were aiming a little high. Also, let's talk about the music for a minute, shall we?
We're talking about
Basil Poledouris.
Or Basil Poledouris.
Basil Poledouris. He's done some of my favorite soundtracks of all time. With specifically Conan the Barbarian, which is so amazing. It's so appropriate and evocative.
Starship Troopers, RoboCop.
Yeah,
those three, right?
Yes, those three. I mean, just amazing. But the score here is so sort of, I don't know, man, way over the top. I think it's kind of a drag on the film that it sort of hits the notes right on the head. And I don't know why it was so glaring to me watching it this time, but it certainly was. I was shocked that he was the composer, behind the conducting baton.
Well, not every movie can be RoboCop. I mean,
Well, I'm not expecting the movie to be RoboCop, but I'm expecting the composer of RoboCop to.
Not every movie score can be RoboCop.
Morris Chestnut's pretty good. Liked him in it.
I mean, again, similarly to a lot of the other characters who are the Seagal sidekick, Keith David, Erica Eleniak, they're all given nothing to do, and Steven Seagal is a notorious screen hog. So that would make sense, because Steven Seagal doesn't like to share the screen with anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, these characters are functioning just to show us how awesome he is, right?
And that has been the whole issue with Seagal from the get-go here, is you don't need to show us how awesome you are in every scene. We should just believe it.
Yeah, I mean, these characters should be a bit bumbling next to him and his expertise, but they should be capable. And they don't seem to be that at all. They just seem to be bumbling through every scene, and then he sort of saves them, and just they're in awe of him. It's just like, come on. Which is funny because
I'm the only one though who would like to see Under Siege 3.
I would like to. If they filmed it like right now, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like no training time for you, Mr. Seagal. Go be in the movie. Yes, I would love to see Casey Ryback fat and bloated and weird. I especially would like it to be made now where he gets no creative control over it. That would be fun.
Wouldn't the best version...
If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
Version of Under Siege 3 be Casey Ryback actually is a chef now, but he owns a restaurant in what's essentially Nakatomi Plaza.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Let me pitch this idea to you because I've been thinking about it since we decided we were doing Seagal Month. Because I've been thinking like what would be the best way to bring Seagal back? Because here's the thing. Even for as possibly unredeemable as he might be as a human being, I don't think any actor is beyond reproach. Look at Mel Gibson, right? I mean, look at Orson Welles. I mean, he was, a drunkard at the end of his life, but he's widely considered to be one of the greatest actors of all time. So people's legacies can be righted. You would agree, right?
Certainly. I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe not with Mel Gibson. Now I'm a little queasy anytime a Mel Gibson choice for a movie comes up. But somebody whose personal behavior was kind of self-destructive, like, I'm not gonna hold that against them. But,
right.
I mean, even if, somebody was drunken and, belligerent to people sometimes, like, as long as they're being a decent human being while they're being belligerent, I'm gonna probably forgive it.
Yeah,
but
you can be Oliver Reed. I mean...
Yeah, man. I love Oliver Reed.
Yeah, I do too, and he was a big turd. Admitted turd. But you know what? He was a lovable turd. What did he say?
Absolutely.
He's a polite bastard.
Right. So there you go.
I think the best way to do this film, Under Siege 3, High Rise, or Under Siege 3, Towering Inferno, just something just absurd, right? Just copying other movies, because essentially you got to turn into it, right? Don't fight it, just turn into it. You have Casey Ryback, who's now a Michelin star chef in a skyscraper. Uh-huh. And he's, and the restaurant is at the 50th floor, 60th floor, 70th floor, whatever the top floor is.
So you're really going for Die Hard here.
Yeah, but that's okay, right? Because I think if you acknowledge it as opposed to pretending like it's not the case, I think you'd get more people interested.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, this was Die Hard on a boat and Die Hard on a train. Why don't we just do Die Hard, right? I mean, look at Dredd. that was pretty much just The Raid. It was actually just The Raid made for American audiences, with Carl Urban, and look how well it fared. It's sometimes imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
That is true. But something like Dread, had some interesting things going for it. This will just be, look, as a comedy piece, yes, they should definitely make Under Siege 3 and just completely make it Die Hard. That would be awesome.
But the question now becomes, now that we've opened this box, to quote the Santa Claus, now that we've opened this box, who do you cast as the villain in Under Siege 3 in 2020, 2021? It's got to be someone who follows in the vein of the previous two films, because you have to have the villain and the heavy is obviously going to be the most exciting character. I'm pretty sure, I don't know who you would cast as the main villain, but I'm pretty sure the only heavy that would make a lot of sense at this point is, you'll probably think I'm crazy, is Dave Bautista.
No, for the secondary guy, I was actually thinking Dave Bautista. 100%.
Right?
For the main heavy, Jim Carrey.
It's just insane enough to work.
Right?
And, Jim Carrey has a massive ego. And Jim Carrey is also trying to get more into serious acting. Thankfully, I don't know if you saw his recent turn as Dr. Robotnik in Sonic, which, by the way, is amazing. Absolutely, unequivocally amazing.
I did see it, and I thought he was spectacular. It was probably what lodged him in my head as a possible villain. But him as a serious villain... I
don't think Bogosian is a serious villain any more than Tommy Lee Jones was.
Yeah, just not Jim Carrey is what I'm saying.
I don't think Jim Carrey is outside of the realm of possibility. I don't find him physically intimidating. And he could do that unhinged thing that Bogosian does in this film, and that Tommy Lee Jones does. You have to have an actor who's not physically intimidating. Because, essentially the way I project the films, the way I projected the film ending is you have Seagal and Jim Carrey, and the way the film ends is this building has a giant open atrium in the center, and Seagal gets to the top, and I don't know, let's bring Katherine Heigl back, because fuck it, who cares at this point? We'll bring Katherine
and
Heigl
Erica Leniak.
And Erica Leniak, sure. And at the end of the movie, it's Jim Carrey, and he's got one of them hostage. One of the other ones has to die, because this is a third film in the franchise. And Seagal and him are having this kind of war of words, but Seagal behind his back has a rotisserie skewer. Okay?
You really thought about this.
It's similar to Die Hard, again, turning into that Die Hard initial scenario of this was essentially a Die Hard clone. Now let's make it Die Hard. At the end of the film, Seagal finds his opportunity to take the rotisserie, and he just follow me here. And he takes the rotisserie and throws it at Jim Carrey like a javelin. Okay. It goes through Jim Carrey's head. He's still alive, but lobotomized, essentially, at this point. And Seagal then takes him and throws him through the atrium into the center of the building where he dies. And then Seagal has to have some sort of pithy one-liner, and it would have to be something to the effect of, "You're toast," or, "Order up," or some bullshit like that. I don't know. I would laugh really hard if Seagal kills Jim Carrey and then throws him into the courtyard of a building 80 stories and goes.
There should be some sort of sculpture at the bottom, like a wind sculpture or something.
Ooh, and he gets impaled on it?
Impaled on it, but it keeps turning like a rotisserie.
If they hadn't used it in Starsky and Hutch, the Todd Phillips film, it would be, "You punched your last meal ticket, amigo," would be the perfect line.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, "You punched your last meal ticket, amigo." Like, I would pay money to see this on DVD, because it would never come out to theaters. But that's the thing about Seagal, right? At this point, his career has kind of gotten to the point where he should be in self-parody territory, but he's not. He refuses.
Yeah, I don't think he's capable.
Under Siege 3, parody territory.
Too serious, man. Like,
he is, and
you're not that great. Like, Well, I don't think it necessarily excuses terrible behavior, but it really paves the way. Whereas this guy was, handed or made into an action star. Right. It wasn't even like he went through an audition process.
No, he didn't have to do much to get to the point where he's at.
No, which there were, I mean, how many dozens, if not hundreds, of other sort of actors can you think of which would have made each of these films better, right? It seems like, you know, I don't think, you know, look at Keanu Reeves when he fights in movies, you know, this stuff can be taught to people. Like, there's lots of charismatic people out there who could have been taught to wave their hands around really fast.
Right. Well, and that's, I mean, that's the other thing, right? It kind of goes back to that whole stunt casting thing. I mean, you could go out on a limb and say that Seagal is the textbook example of stunt casting.
He's just, yeah, I mean,
right? I mean, like, I want someone who seriously knows how to do martial arts in my film instead of teaching a trained actor the basic moves to get them through the scenes and using body doubles and clever filming. I'm going to cast an actual martial art expert in my film because Seagal is 7th level in Aikido. And it's like, just because they have one part of it doesn't mean the other part.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Art is inherently going to follow. If you're trained in martial arts, it's going to be harder for you to be an actor than for an actor to learn basic martial arts.
Yeah, like, you know, we have to cast this character who can play basketball. We need a professional sports. You know, it's like, well, no, you don't. This is about a deeper level than just the actor. Because I'm sure Seagal isn't doing any of the stunts, man. I doubt that's him running around on a train top. And have we talked about the fact that not only is he kind of invincible when it comes to a fight, and the fights have to end quickly because we can't have him harmed, but for all of these movies that were following the Die Hard pattern, it seems to me the one lesson they definitely did not learn is that when that movie starts, Bruce Willis is in a plain white wife beater and pants, and by the end of that movie, that shirt is completely black.
And his feet are bandaged. He's covered in blood and glass and singe marks. And you can tell he's been through hell.
In this movie, he has a pristine suit at the beginning, and he has a pristine suit at the end. And he's like climbed under the train and fallen off a cliff and been shot at and stabbed. And was he or was he not at one point in this movie shot?
Yeah, but it was just a flesh wound.
Yeah, but like, where did he get hit? They show his blood on the coupling thing on the between the train cars and on the handle where he clearly grasped to get underneath the train. But then it's not brought up again at all. It's not even an impediment.
Well, fuck you. Fuck you expecting the movie. I mean, it's the thing. That's what it feels like. It's like, fuck you, the movie doesn't have to play by the rules of action movies either. I mean, even in Commando or other films, the villain puts the hero through the ringer, and it's noticeable on the hero.
Yeah, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, because the rest of the action, I think, in the movie, to me anyway, I thought was solid and sort of grounded in a reality that I was able to buy into and enjoy the film despite the fucker. And now here's the fucker reminding us not only can I not act and I have zero charisma, but I'm also defying the laws of physics. Here's the problem with the movie, Steven Seagal. Everything else is pretty good. That's my estimation.
Well, I think on that note, on that pretty goddamn definitive note, let's take a break and we'll play the interview that I did with our good friend of the Kulturecast. You've heard him on here before, Rich Hatem, talking about the thing that he knows best, screenwriting. So I'm sitting down with my friend Richard Hatem. Richard is one half of the writing duo behind Dark Siege.
Oh boy.
2. Under Territory. No, we're going to be talking a little bit about Richard's career as a writer and the first film that he wrote along with Matt Reeve, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. So, Richard, you've been on the Kulturecast before, obviously.
I have.
This interview is going to be a little different than a lot of the other ones I've done because you and I are friends. Outside of this, I have known you for like 3-4 years now.
It feels like it. It's probably only been 2 weeks, but yeah, it certainly feels like years.
I genuinely think it's been almost 3 years.
Well, I do recall you saved my life in Nam.
Well, okay. They don't need to know about that. So, Richard, you are, for those of you who don't know, Richard, you're just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we talk about kind of the path that you took to Under Siege 2.
Well, Under Siege 2 came out 25 years ago this month. Next month, July 15th. So we're coming up on the anniversary. So if you go back 25 years, so since that was my first thing, and since then, I've been lucky enough to make a living at first writing feature films and now working in television, which is a total blast. And that's what I wanted to do. I mean, ever since I was in high school, I wanted to write for television. That was actually the goal. Writing for movies was sort of like, yeah, that's cool, but I just want to write something as cool as the A-Team. If I can do that, I'll be a happy man. But then,
why didn't you say Kolchak? You said A-Team and not Kolchak. Get out of here.
Well, Kolchak is, a giant influence. But when I was in high school, like literally the first script I ever wrote, like when I sat down and said, I'm going to write an hour of television. Like, I'm actually going to do this, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try to sell it. I was a junior in high school. It was 1983, and I sat back and I went, well, I fucking love the A-Team. It just started. It was only a month or two old. They'd only aired like 5 or 6 episodes, and I was so into it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have fun writing an episode of a show that I love because that'll just be more time I can spend in that world. And then I'm going to try to sell it. And if I can sell it, then maybe they'll hire me to write more episodes, and then I can spend my entire life in the fantasy world of the television show that I'm currently into.
But for those of you who don't know how Richard and I met because Richard reached out to Mike White, friend of the Kulturecast, frequent guest Mike White, when him and I were doing the Kolchak Tapes podcast. And I think you were just championing. Jesus, how do you say that? Championing. Oh my God.
Well, just championing
our podcast on Twitter, and then we DM'd you and we're like, "Hey, you want to join us sometime?" And I think you probably died at that moment and were brought back to life by the magic of Kolchak.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of podcasts. We live in this era where if you have some obscure interest, you can find other people either online or through a podcast where you can, again, live in that world. And when I discovered that there was a podcast devoted to discussing the episodes of Kolchak, I was like, this is crazy. As an 8-year-old child, who could never even talk about this with anyone because no one cared about the Night Stalker the way I did, to then grow into an adult 45 years later, and now here's a podcast. I mean, this is crazy. This is a dream come true. So I had to crow about it on Twitter. Then you guys reached out, and before I knew it, I was on the show, and then we were buddies.
Yeah, it's true. It's I mean, look, it's weird in like you were saying, in this day and age, social media is, for all of its problems, which, boy, the bucket of problems for social media grows ever larger every day. It is democratizing in a way that it allows people to reach out to one another that, I mean, realistically, you and I would never have met each other. It's not because of, like, standing in society. It's literally because you live in LA and I don't.
Well, I was going to say, by the way, we're friends. We have never been within 1,000 miles of each other.
That's not true. I was in LA a couple summers ago. Timing just never synced up.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Theory, yes. And I am sure I've been in an airplane that flew over Lincoln at some point, but still.
That's the only people that visit here for the most part.
Yeah, I was exactly 7 miles above your house.
Exactly. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Under Siege 2. So tell me a little bit about you meeting Matt Reeve and kind of, getting together and working on this script, where the germ of the idea came from, and kind of what you were trying to achieve with the initial script.
Well, it was so funny. The initial script, of course, was something that he and I wrote together that had.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Had nothing to do with Under Siege. In fact, I think at the time we wrote it or conceived of it, the movie Under Siege had not come out yet. So, and we were not, we were not aware of Steven Seagal or fans of Steven Seagal. So that was not what it was. And you're talking about Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves is a guy who is now currently quarantined in London in the process of making the new Batman movie. So he has gone on to an amazing career as a director. He's done some of the Planet of the Apes movies, Cloverfield, Let Me In. He's amazing and always has been.
Amazing. Planet of the Apes, just...
Yeah.
Boy. Because he directed, the third one, right?
He directed the second and the third one.
Yeah, the third one is, I think the year it came out, it was my favorite movie of the year. It hits you in ways that movies about talking apes shouldn't. Let's just put it that way. I mean, that's the ultimate success of a film about talking apes, is that there are emotional stakes, right?
Yeah. And he's, at the time that we met in college, because that's where we met in film school at USC. We're both LA natives. I grew up on the east side in Monterey Park, and which, if you don't know where that is, it's south of Pasadena and east of East LA. But it's just kind of just outside downtown. So to get to USC for me was a 20-minute car drive. And he grew up on the west side in Santa Monica, so he had the same 20-minute drive, but from the other direction. But anyway, we met at USC Film School, and from the beginning, well, we clicked. I think I remember telling you I didn't know who this guy was, but I was walking into one of my classes in this big theater. It was a class anyone could take, where it was like Cinema 190, Norris Theater, and I see this guy arguing. And I sort of arc around to see what the argument is. And I pick up that he's arguing with someone about the movie The King of Comedy, which at the time, now this is 1984, the movie had come out the previous year, my favorite movie. I mean, I still love that movie. It's still in my top 5 movies.
It hasn't been replaced by Joker yet?
No, I like the original.
I don't like the cheap knockoff remake that got public attention. I like
Right.
the one that's actually good.
Yeah. So, you know that I have not seen Joker. How pathetic is that?
Not
That
at all,
is-
because it's not good. So you're
But
good.
I feel like I should just see it because it's, I
You
work
would
in
watch
that
it, and
arena.
if you like King of Comedy so much, you would watch Joker and say, this is a bad facsimile of a film I really enjoy, made by people who aren't nearly as adept at filmmaking as Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro were and are.
Right. Well, if it was up to me, I probably would have seen it. But every time I try to get my wife to watch it, she's like, I ain't watching that fucking
I don't
shit.
blame her.
So,
Smart woman.
Yeah.
You married a smart woman, right?
I know it's kind of counterintuitive. She's smart, but we are married. Anyway, so
I feel the same way about my own wife. Why are you
Yeah,
with
it's like-
me? I'm so dumb.
yes, as far as I can tell, you've only had one real lapse in judgment, but it benefits me, so I'll shut up about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, so Matt is arguing in favor of King of Comedy against somebody else who I don't even know who it is. I've forgotten. Who is against King of Comedy. And I just instinctually stand there and sort of go shoulder to shoulder with Matt, adding in my argument and assisting him. And then we sort of together destroy the other guy. And then he goes off. And then we turn and look at each other. And it's like, oh, hi, my name is Rich. Oh, hey, I'm Matt. And that's how we met. And then we, thus began a lifelong friendship that has lasted until this day. So we went to film school. Matt, incredibly talented guy, by far the most talented person in film school. The rest of us were making these little movies and they were out of focus and, leaving the lens cap on. And Matt is creating these perfectly designed jewels, using nothing more than a Super 8 camera. But just these beautiful things where he found someone in the music school to do an original score for each one of his little silent films. We would act in each other's films. He would help me, and it was that thing where when you're told to pick a lab partner. If you're smart, again, you pick the smartest person.
Right.
So Matt and I became friends, but when we went from Cinema 290 to Cinema 310. And if you went to USC Film School, everyone knows what these numbers mean. But it's just now you're teamed with another person to make a slightly more sophisticated movie. He and I were partners. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome because my movie will be good because of Matt. So we made our movies together. We graduate. But when we graduated, we were both really depressed and upset because that is how we are. We're very moody, and at the time we were hoping that by the time film school ended, we would have an automatic entree into the film business. And that just didn't happen. And we couldn't figure out how to make that jump. And USC certainly was not helping us. And
shocking.
Yeah. Right.
Well, you're the world's problem now.
Well, yeah, and it's like, well, great. So now I've spent all this money, but I don't feel any closer, and I don't really even know what I learned necessarily. But I did meet some great people, Matt being one of them, and so we're hanging around that summer, going, "What the fuck do? We are losers. We're 21. Spielberg was making movies at 21. We're like doing nothing. I'm teaching traffic school. You're working in the mall at a clothing store. It's like we're disasters." So we decided, well, we should probably write a movie because this was the late 80s going in just 88 we graduated. So, and this was how you broke into Hollywood back in the late 80s. You wrote a movie and you tried to sell it. And there were these things. If you just write a movie, it's called a spec. You're writing it on speculation and you're trying to sell it as an item that will be produced by a studio.
Right.
And in that era, people were doing it. Kids from all over America were just writing scripts and Hollywood was snapping them up because who knows, it might be the next Shane Black. And they were making $1 million. Like studios were paying crazy amounts of money. And so that was the lottery ticket. And that was the way you were going to start your career. There was no other way. There was no other path. So we're like, I guess we better do this.
In 88, there wasn't a were we just like a couple years prior to the groundswell of folks like Robert Rodriguez and Kevin Smith like going out and really like taking it upon themselves to make film? We're just a couple years prior to that, right?
Just a couple years prior, and I don't like, I can't say with any confidence that their emergence had to do with advances in technology. Like suddenly we don't need to lug around a 16 millimeter camera. We can shoot on video.
You're right. I think their frustration came from just feeling like they didn't want to be part of that system that you were talking about. And they felt like the way to get into the system hamstrung them, I guess.
Right. Well, and I think Robert Rodriguez was in Texas.
Right.
And where was Kevin Smith? He was like in the Midwest or New Jersey.
In New Jersey, yeah.
Right, he was in New Jersey. So we were right here. I remember
you're where you wanted to be.
We were geographically where we wanted to be, but I got to tell you, I remember there was a night we were at USC, right next to USC, literally right across the street is a place called the Shrine Auditorium. And I remember the night that we got out of class, and as we're walking to our cars, there's all these limousines because the Oscars were being held at the Shrine Auditorium that year. And we're literally just like looking 25 feet away at the epicenter of Hollywood at that moment. And we're looking at each other going, we're here, it's there, they're there, and we don't know how to get there.
What is keeping you from that?
Yeah. It's like what is the magic key? What is the phrase? Who do you have to know? What do you have to do? What's the trick? And there wasn't a lot of hands being held out to help people over that chasm. And there wasn't there wasn't social media or the internet, so there were even fewer resources to connect those dots.
Right.
So, but we were aware, we could go to the newsstand and buy Variety, and we knew that people were selling scripts, and we certainly knew like we saw every movie that came out, so we had an intimate knowledge of what was happening in Hollywood at that moment, and the things that were getting made and the things that were coming out. So we were super familiar, and we loved it and really into it. And, Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg and, we loved it. So we're hanging out at his house in Santa Monica, at his mom's house, and we're, 21 or whatever, 22. And we decide, I guess we better write a movie. And
might as well put all that free time to good use.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, we didn't have any ideas. So what you did then was you went down to Blockbuster Video. And we literally wandered up and down the aisles just reminiscing about, that movie, God, was so great. Oh, my God. What if we could make this? What if we could make that? And we then, of course, get to the VHS copy of Die Hard. And we stop, and it's like, fucking Die Hard. We should just watch Die Hard tonight just to enjoy ourselves and remember why we love stuff. And then we'll come up with an idea. But even just standing there in Blockbuster, we're like, why can't we just write an action movie? Why don't we just write something like Die Hard? Something that's got that propulsive, machine-like construction but even like more so, like it's got to be like Die Hard at 100 miles an hour. It's got to be like, like Die Hard on a train. We were standing in Blockbuster Video when we came up with the idea.
Well, and here's the thing. We've seen this now, with It's blank on a blank. You see, like one of my favorite books of all time, The Relic, is Jurassic Park in a museum, or da-da-da-da on a blank. And, it's like, it's like Die Hard on an airplane. It's like Die Hard it's like Jaws in a blank. And it's like, there's a reason that equation works, is because Die Hard is kind of like, in my mind at least, and clearly in your mind, it is almost the measuring stick by which a lot of action films are measured.
Absolutely. And certainly at the time, and it was funny because
I would say it still is.
Well, I think even more so, because at the time it was sort of looked at as, well, it's a summer action movie, blah, 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 who cares? But people like Matt and I and a whole generation of people watched that movie and felt something. It's like, this one's different. This one is better made. There's a whole level of structure here on the page that is being faithfully rendered on film. and you couldn't even articulate it, but you felt it and you knew it, and we felt it and we knew it, but we didn't even know why. It's like, why is this so much better than other movies? So that night we began finding out. We rented the VHS. We went back to his house and we watched it. And while we were watching it, Matt sat there with a yellow legal notepad, and we would watch a scene and then pause it. And he's like, let's just figure out what they did. And then he would write down John McClane, airplane, talks to the guy, fists with your toes, and then
right.
And then the next, then he gets, he lands, Argyle picks him up, limousine, teddy bear,
big teddy bear.
Yeah, Argyle, cool. Talks to Argyle.
Also a teddy bear in Under Siege 2.
Gee, how'd that happen?
Not as big though.
No, I mean, come on,
And there's no Argyle, who I will go on record as saying is one of the best parts of Die Hard.
Yeah, there was just all this like really clever, fun stuff.
Everybody gets in on it in some form or fashion, be it Argyle, his wife, the cop. I forget what the cop's name is.
Oh, right, yeah.
Reginald Val Johnson, his character gets in on it. Everybody has their moment, and in my mind, that is a huge thing that action movies don't do anymore, is giving everyone a moment to shine, and that's something that I expected from action movies of that era.
Well, it's fun, and I'll tell you something else. That movie, as many movies back then had, and some, I don't know who made it illegal, but it had a little something called planting and payoff. And movies just don't do it anymore.
They actively shirk that convention.
They really do. And I think they do it because someone decided, well, that feels too written, and it takes away from the reality of the movie. And I'm kind of like, reality of what? Fucking quantum?
It is a movie.
Quantum of Solace? I get that it's a movie.
Yeah, Nick, no one is confusing action movies for reality.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that something like maybe The Bourne Identity helped usher that in.
Yeah.
And then coupled with, I mean, that was that whole thing in the early 2000s, right? It's like you've got The Bourne Identity, and then you've got Batman Begins, and then you've got Casino Royale. And you've got those three movies that take the preconceived notion of an action movie and try to reel it or gritty it up. And it's like, it doesn't always have to be that way. It takes the fun out of the movies.
I totally agree. We've seen it with superhero movies. We see it with action movies. And it's funny now, it's like, I would say the Mission Impossible movies, to a certain extent, have been able to, they're not action comedies, but they've been able to bring back a little bit of that self-knowledge. Like, we know, these characters sort of know that they are in an action movie.
Right. The expectations are there. Like, and that's the thing, again, like you just said, you don't have to break the fourth wall implicitly, but you can kind of do it.
Well,
in a way where it's like it's not that they know that they're in an action movie, but they know what the expectations are for what their character is supposed to do.
Right, and planting and payoff actually is a way to communicate with the audience, and between filmmaker and audience, to say, remember that thing? And then the audience goes, oh my God, it's that thing. And now it's happening. And that's why it's important that he has the thing. And the audience feels rewarded for their investment of time. Their capital investment in the movie is now paying dividends. And it gets them even more into it because they identify even further with that character. It's like, oh my God, they remembered it. I didn't, but I know it now. And now we're all on the same side. And it's just such a powerful way to cement that audience filmmaker bond. And why that gets sort of tossed to the side, I don't know. I don't think you're getting a lot in return for your quote unquote verisimilitude.
I would agree. I mean, the James Bond franchise was kind of the poster child for planting and payoff, because you literally had a scene in every movie where you would have the Q items or the Q gadgets, and those would pay off throughout the film.
Right.
I mean, that was like stock and trade for anyone writing Bond films.
Yeah.
From essentially Sean Connery up until Daniel Craig, that was how you did it. It wasn't, and sometimes it was tactless and sometimes it had some tact to it, but the payoff was always like a rousing, here comes the James Bond theme when he uses the item, and it's like, that's the moment.
Right. I think, yes, I think sometimes those could be, like you could leave the theater and go, well, they reverse engineered that. They knew there'd be a moment where he needs a parachute. They knew there'd be a moment where he needs some acid. So then you just have the scene that provides it. There are more elegant ways to do it that might elicit a greater feeling of satisfaction for the audience when they remember something at the same moment the other person does, and it feels a bit more natural. But
as opposed to just feeding Bond the gadgets.
Yeah, it's like, okay, he's used gadget 1, gadget 2, gadget 3. Check, check, check. It's fun. Right. I love it. But yeah, you can make it as elegant as you want, and which is something that we tried to do when we sat down to write our movie. So, of course, we watch the movie. He's got, pages and pages of notes, and we go over the structure of the movie, having now reverse engineered an outline of the movie where everything happens. Here's where we find out he's a cop. Here's the first appearance of the white van, when we don't even know what that white van is, except that the music got a little scary, so that van means bad news, but the bad guys haven't shown up yet. Here's where we learn about his marriage. Here's where he takes off his shoes and his shirt. Every single moment, and then here's where it pays off, 100 minutes later in the movie. And we really looked at that structure and went, wow, if you take what is considered screenplay structure and hold it up against this, all right, there's the end of Act 1, there's the middle of Act 2, here's the low point of Act 2 when all appears lost, this is Act 3, here's the first 15 pages of Act 3, here's the conclusion, here's this. Like, you could really see a structure. It was like scraping the skin off something and seeing the skeleton beneath and going, here's how you build one of these things.
Right.
Now, I will also overtly say to anyone within the sound of my voice, this is what every writer does, and this is how you learn to write. And this is how you learn to write a novel. This is how you learn to write a play. And this is how you learn to write a movie and a TV pilot, by doing exactly this, breaking down existing texts that have gone before, learning that structure, learning how these things...
It's not copying.
It's not copying. That's like saying, well, in architecture, you have to invent a new... No. In architecture, build a beautiful new building, but here's how you build a building.
Right. Or painting or anything else where there's predefined rules and a structure to work within. It's not copying. It's not cheating. You're just playing the game by the rules that have been established. In baseball, they don't take the baseball bat and throw it and go, that's a home run. Like, it's not how that works. It's just not.
You're following a tradition of Western literature, which is what we follow here in this hemisphere. And that's how you learn to effectively get across the themes and feelings and emotions you want to in whatever medium you're working in. And music works the same way. People break down note for note and, sort of bar by bar, songs written by everyone from, Beethoven to the Beatles. That's how you do it. And then you try to add your new spin on it. But well, what about Picasso? He did this whole new thing. But Picasso could draw a human hand, looked like a photograph. And he could do that a long time before he started experimenting. Learn the rules, then break the rules. But anyone who's gone to any sort of school to learn a creative endeavor, art school, whatever it is, this. It's just hard because you want to believe that you've got magic in your body. And that you'll pick up a pencil and suddenly your hand will start writing a classic novel. It ain't going to happen that way. Anyway, all of that having been said, in our own stupid way, that's what we were doing. So then we sat down and went, well, okay, so for the sake of argument, what would the Die Hard on a Train be? And I will say that outside of the structure of Die Hard, which we followed very closely in terms of when plot developments happen, and when moments of great, jeopardy occur, we were like, well, what's appealing about Die Hard? Well, what's appealing about Die Hard is that these 12 terrorists are very formidable, and there's one guy, and the odds are against him. The motherfucker doesn't even have shoes. Now, that's compelling.
And he's also a guy. I mean, he's just a cop.
He's just a cop. He is not being presented as oh, he's a Navy SEAL who knows blah, blah, blah. And that was one of the things that really hit us. It's like, we've got to, whatever we do, we have to write a movie where our guy is just barely surviving. Until the very end, you think he's going to lose. Kind of like John McClane. Like, you think he is fucked. Up until the end, you're like, this guy's fucked.
Oh, no. And that's the thing. I mean, that last scene of the film, well, not the last scene, but the last scene with Hans Gruber in the building when John McClane shows up with the gun taped to his head. If this is a spoiler for you, I'm sorry. How have you not seen Die Hard? That you get the exasperation and the end of his rope with the character. He's covered in blood. He's just at wit's end. And he screams. Yeah. He lets out that like scream to get Hans Gruber's attention. And you feel it in his character's being that he is at his end and he cannot go on any farther.
He staggers out. His feet are bleeding. His clothes are torn. There's soot all over him. He looks crazed. He just looks like I can't. I have gone beyond anything I could ever do, and now I'm going to watch you kill my wife. You know? And you really don't know. I mean, in that moment, I'm sitting in the audience going, I honestly don't know. Like, I obviously I know something's going to happen, but I'm not sitting back with my arms crossed going, okay, and now he, blows him away and says something and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you cared. So the corollary to that is that we always said the one thing we have to make sure is this can never be a movie about 12 terrorists who picked the wrong train to hijack. And it's in our mind, an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where we're just watching him tear through one bad guy after the next with his sense of inevitability. And that's the one thing we didn't want. Well, okay, we all know how that story ended. Anyway.
Well, so the issue that you just brought up is, I think, an issue that permeates a lot of 80s action films, is that they mess with the wrong man. And it's I understand and appreciate that, because you essentially are seeing like a bunch of what could be described as bumbling villains trying to take down the ultimate in, Navy SEAL, Commando, Marine, whatever he was in his previous life. And it's a compelling story to a point.
Well, it's almost a subgenre. It's its own thing.
Right. It's not, yeah, exactly.
It's like the bad guys can be bumbling or they can be very skilled, but they are simply not going to win. And the joy in the movie, it's kind of like the joy of a Dirty Harry movie. It's like, Dirty Harry is coming after these guys, and it's just a matter of time. And there is that avenging angel archetype. It's now in novels, Jack Reacher, the Lee Child novels, and Tom Cruise has been in a couple of those movies.
Not Tom Cruise's character, though, because he is not the intimidating character of the book at all.
Well, no, he's not, but mythologically on paper, he's supposed to be. The casting may be a little bit off, but it's there. I mean, Tom Cruise is on the phone with the bad guy saying, I'm coming after you. I'm going to drink your blood from a boot.
Right.
And I love Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise is a great actor, and he can carry that shit off. Physically, he may not be what Jack Reacher is in the novels, but the character on paper is the avenging angel of justice. And the joy is just watching the inevitability of that vengeance take place. Now, but we were trying to do Die Hard. We were trying to do common man gets in over his head and just barely is able to do it. So what we wrote was a character named Martin Rush, which is a cool sounding name, but really it's Harrison Ford in our minds with a tie and a vest and glasses. And his profession is he is a rail investigator for the NTSB, the National Transit Safety Board. And he's never picked up a gun in his life. The only advantage he has over the bad guys is he knows the playing field better than they do. No one knows trains like this guy. And he's going to use his knowledge of trains to give him the slight edge that's going to allow him to save not his wife, but his daughter in the end. because she will be among the hostages. He's a divorced guy. He's got his daughter for, the next couple of weeks. And the beginning part of their time together is a train trip across the Rockies from one city to the next, where they'll spend some of their summer and try to reconcile and kind of get their father-daughter relationship going again. So that was what we started with. That character, that myth, that story that we want to tell. And we're like, okay, so now we got to learn about trains. And we spent all summer at his mom's house, sitting there in that back room with his giant Macintosh, trying to write the outline and eventually the script pages for the movie that we eventually called Dark Territory.
So obviously Harrison Ford didn't star in your film.
No, as it turns out.
Before we talk about how Mr. Seagal got involved, if you could go back, and obviously you had all the creative control in the world, both you and Matt had the creative control 50-50, you could go back and make the film the way you wanted to make it. Again, this is an unrealistic scenario because that's not how the business works. Who would you have cast in the main role?
We would have cast Harrison Ford. It would have been a little bit more like Air Force One. Not true, he was playing the president, but in that movie, it was like president as common man. He was a version of Reagan, probably. But we would have cast Harrison Ford. That was our dream. He was our favorite actor of that kind of movie. We would, literally for us, it was like, well, if we can't make it into its own movie starring Harrison Ford, maybe in some crazy world, this turns into Die Hard 3.
So you were angling that it might have been Die Hard 3.
We're like, that's not ideal because by then it's going to feel pretty, warmed over. But we know they're making two. Two's coming out because by then, the first one came out in 88 and the second one came out in 90. And that's we had already read in the trades that they're making that movie and it's going to take place at an airport. And we're like, okay, well, buildings, planes, and trains. Let's hope maybe we'll be Die Hard 3. And that'd be fine with us because at least it's Die Hard and it's Bruce Willis and it's John McClane.
So I think a more interesting question would become, if you could cast anyone now in Under Siege 2, who would you have cast?
Of action stars of today?
Yeah, of today.
It's so weird because I don't even know who there's The Rock. There's the Kingsman movies, Mission Impossible movies. It wouldn't be Daniel Craig. It would be someone who comes across more as an everyman.
Liam Neeson.
Oh God, yeah, right. I mean, it's like that
the total everyman.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. I'm trying to think. Are there sort of an everyman hero who's not a comedian? Like you could say Chris Pratt. And sort of come at it from the Jurassic Park angle, but Chris Pratt, maybe one of the people in the Marvel movies, maybe someone along the lines of Robert Downey Jr.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, Chris Evans. I like Chris Evans. Yeah. So along those lines, something like that, I guess. I mean, somebody fun. You want someone who has that like Robert Downey Jr. does have that level of audience awareness. There's a deep interior wink at the audience, even when he's playing very dramatic roles, that it doesn't undercut the role.
Right.
It's not that there was a while where we thought Mel Gibson, of course this was 30 years ago, but we're like, well, maybe it's a Mel Gibson movie. Like, who knows? I mean, he's a big action star, could be. At different points in its development, it was being developed for Richard Gere. At different points, Kurt Russell's name came up, again, 30 years ago.
Boy, I don't understand Richard Gere at all.
Well, these were like gettable people when it looked like the movie might get made with foreign financing at sort of a B movie level, like not a big giant studio movie, but kind of it's some weird action movie that, Harrison Ford isn't in.
So how did our friend Mr. Nehru Jacket Man himself, Steven Seagal, get involved with the film?
Well, what eventually happened was we got our script to a young entertainment lawyer named Carl Austin, who is still, 30 years later, my lawyer and Matt's lawyer. but we were all, in our early 20s then, and he was, low man on the totem pole at the entertainment law firm where he worked. And one of the things you do is you try to represent material, almost like an agent, but a lawyer can do it too, and broker deals, and that's how you advance as an entertainment lawyer. So he was looking, obviously he's not going to get the William Goldman script, but he's looking for other scripts that he can turn into something and make his name on. And we met him through an acquaintance. He read the script, thought it was great, and was like, okay, I'm going to see what I can do with this. And he introduced us to a couple of young producers who were in their early 30s who were trying to make names for themselves. And they optioned the script for like $500. It's like, we'll have the rights to this movie and we'll try to develop it over the next year. And we'll pay you guys $500. So these two producers were Jeffrey Newman and Martin Wiley. And for a year, we worked at their offices. They had an office in a building at the very end of Wilshire, where Wilshire ends at PCH. And they were like on the 19th floor. So every day we would go, I would drive from Pasadena to Santa Monica in, this was like 91, 92-ish, because some time went by. And we would go and we were in, they could not afford these suite of offices. These offices were rented at a deficit to impress clients so that they could make movies and one day afford those offices. Okay. Sure. I mean, $1 million views of the Pacific Ocean, from 100 yards away. Anyway, and we had a little office and we worked every day and ate pretzels, and that was our life. Rewriting the movie. What was the first note that we got from these guys? They read the script and came back to us and said, is there any way you could make the character like an ex-Navy SEAL? And our heads are exploding. We're like, this is the first step to 12 terrorists who picked the wrong train to hijack. And we're like, no, for us, the fun of the movie is that he is not that. He is a guy who, blah, 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 blah. Well, before you know it, it's like, well, okay, he has some military training, but hasn't really done anything with it. So we were constantly trying to strip away any sort of special skills other than courage and brains. And they were constantly trying to put those things back in. Well, of course, that's obviously the direction everyone's going to move. We did another draft. While we were working with them, they managed to meet a guy named Gary Goldstein. Now, Gary Goldstein was a producer manager. And that means that he would represent writers like an agent, but as a manager who took a very active role in getting these writers' scripts produced. And when that happened, he was attached as producer and made an additional fee. His biggest client was a guy named J.F. Lawton. J.F. Lawton broke onto the scene writing a movie called Pretty Woman,
which was originally a script called 3000, and Pretty Woman is a piece of trash.
Okay.
No, you don't understand. I literally just watched it yesterday for the first time.
Oh, really? Oh my God. Okay. All right. So this is a fresh, hot take.
Oh, it is bad. It is a film that is so poorly, has aged so poorly in a day and age where people and the times have come somewhat farther than in the 90s when it comes to sex work, that it's shocking that a film like that can still be remembered fondly.
Yeah. I have honestly never seen it. I didn't see it when it came out, and then once J.F. Lawton was in our lives, it felt a little weird. But anyway, I'm like, whatever. So Gary Goldstein is manager to J.F. Lawton. J.F. Lawton writes Pretty Woman, and then J.F. Lawton writes a movie called Under Siege, which in the meantime had come out, I think right around 91, 92. Probably maybe 91. I don't know. Anyway, Die Hard on a Battleship. Steven Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones, Erica Eleniak. And this was basically Steven Seagal's sort of move up. It's like, now I'm not just doing these sort of, revenge karate movies. Now I'm sort of doing a big tentpole Hollywood action movie. And suddenly Steven Seagal was a giant star. So Gary Goldstein told Martin and Jeffrey, Warner Brothers is hot on making a sequel. And they're looking for scripts. They've hired a pair of screenwriters to write specifically a sequel to Under Siege, but they're also looking for spec scripts to turn into the sequel, because that's how Die Hard worked. The movie Die Hard was based on a book by Roderick Thorpe, and every other Die Hard movie that has been made has been based on a spec script or a book adaptation. And so they were very open to that. It's like, this does not have to be designed this way. There could be a script that gets retrofitted. So Gary Goldstein said, I will give you some inside information about what you should do with these two guys you're working with and the direction that they should go to get Warner Brothers' attention. And if you take my notes, I will then bring your script personally into Lorenzo di Bonaventura, the head of Warner Brothers feature films, and I will say, read this. I think it might be just what you're looking for. So we're like, fuck, I guess we got to, this is what we got to do. Now we knew at that point, okay, so we're writing this thing, and our greatest hope now is that it's going to be Under Siege 2. But it doesn't have to be, like, we don't have to write Seagal. We can just write a really cool movie, and then it can just, they can make it a Seagal movie later. Except it'll have these certain things, like the character is a Navy SEAL. So it'll be easier to retrofit, but we don't have to pander necessarily. So it's a 50% move toward appeasing the Under Siege gods, but not a 100% move. So we do that. In the beginning of 1993, all the scripts are turned in. Warner Brothers reads ours and really likes it. So in the spring of 1993, they say, okay, Steven Seagal, you're going to read 3 scripts this weekend. Ours, this other one, and the one that was written to be the Under Siege 2 feature film. And tell us which one you like the best. So Steven Seagal takes all 3 scripts home and says, okay, I want to do this one, but it was not ours. He's like, I'll do this one. And Warner Brothers looked at him and looked at the 3 scripts on the table and said, yeah, except no, you're going to do this one. And Warner Brothers pointed to Dark Territory. And Seagal said, okay. And it was at that moment that our movie became a reality. And they said, okay, Seagal is going to make this movie as the sequel to Under Siege. And you're going to go meet him, and we're going to buy the script, and all this stuff started to happen. So the first 2 things that happened were we met Steven Seagal, and then the second thing that happened was we were let go from the project.
Wait, what?
Now, these 2 things were not connected, but they were...
Wait, hold on a second, though. So when Seagal got involved, you were no longer involved.
We overlapped for about 3 months.
Wow.
Now, this was to be expected. We didn't necessarily know that because we were very young, and it was our first rodeo. That really was our first rodeo. But at the time, it was very common it's like, okay, we love this script. We're buying it. There's an actor involved. We're going to make this movie. Now let's start hiring a string of writers to rewrite it. And that was just considered what you did. It's like an actor felt like they were being shortchanged if 3 different high-priced Hollywood screen doctors were not brought in to do a pass on the script. Whether it helped or hurt or went right or left, that was considered a part of the process. It's like, you get big writers on this thing, even if all they do is add a cool action scene or a couple of fun lines of dialogue, at least we've got that. And later on, we'll cobble them all together and we'll make a movie. Especially in terms of action movies, that was very common.
So let me ask you before we get to the next part, what was yours and Matt's response to Seagal being the one that was brought in? Like, what was your reactions at the time with Seagal being involved?
Devastation.
Because of
it being Seagal, and also because of us being idiots. Because we were so far up our own asses, and this is nothing against me and Matt, it's just that we wanted our 100% dream to come true. We didn't get at the time that this is one thing in a long career. And And it's a great thing that doesn't happen to everybody else. Our movie at least is going to get made. And many people went through their entire careers never having any movies made. They'd rewrite movies, they'd write scripts and get paid for it, but none of these movies ever went into production. We were aware but not fully appreciative of the fact that when a major star is attached to your movie, that movie gets made. And getting a movie made is everything. It's winning the Super Bowl. So we were like, yeah, the movie will get made, but it's going to be a fucking Seagal movie, and it's not going to be the one we dreamed about. And, you know, that we want to make the movie that we dreamed about, because that's why you get into the business. You don't get into it cynically. You know, you get into it because you want to make Die Hard. And that wasn't cynical for us. So we moped around. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story the night we sold the movie. We moped around his house. And we're like, we're losers. We're going to be the laughing stock of everyone we know because we wrote a Steven Seagal movie, and we're going to be marked with that for our entire career. We'll probably be lucky to ever do anything of quality ever because it's just going to be, oh, those are those guys who did a Steven Seagal movie, you know, next. And we were really getting down, and we didn't make that much money either. Gary Goldstein made a lot of money. Martin and Jeffrey made a lot of money. A lot of people made a lot of money. Matt and I did not make a lot of money on the sale of that script. Okay. So we were sitting in his house. Then there's a knock on the door at his house. Okay. And we go over and we open the door, and it's Matt's best friend from high school. A guy he was made friends with at Santa Monica High School. Maybe you've heard of him, J.J. Abrams.
So that's how you know J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, and then, again, we're going...
Because sidebar, I asked Richard last week, Richard, what's the most famous person you're on a first-name basis with? Because somehow in the 3 years of our friendship, that question had never come up. It's weird. I had never even thought about it.
Well, I mean, there's people I've worked with, but like if I walked down the street, Richard Gere would not recognize me. He would take a lot of prompting to go, oh, you're the guy who wrote Mothman. Oh, nice to see you again. I met you once 22 years ago. You know, JJ, like I said, I'm like, if I was walking down the street and JJ looked over, he would say, oh, hey, Rich. And I'd go, oh, hey, JJ. So, but that being aside, at the time, Matt and I were struggling. JJ had just come back from New York City, where Mike Nichols had just directed Harrison Ford in Regarding Henry. So this is who we're in the shadow of. It's like, here's a guy who's writing amazing stuff. He's getting treated great, and really great, cool actors and directors are validating his talent, and we're doing a Steven Seagal Die Hard ripoff. We're idiots. So JJ walks in with a bottle of champagne, and Matt's like, no, JJ, no, you read the trades, but you misunderstand. This is not a good thing. That we're not getting that much money, and it's a Seagal movie, and we're stupid. And JJ's mouth, like, his jaw hits the floor. And the first thing he says is, you guys are idiots. And we're like, what? He's like, don't you get it? You're getting a movie made. There are people who work their entire lives and don't get this. Do you know the thousands of people who read that article today and are miserable tonight because their movie didn't sell? And your movie didn't just sell. It's going to get made because it's got a star attached, and it's going to be a sequel. So there's no question. It's happening. And that you have won the fucking Triple Crown, and you don't get that. And the fact that it's Steven Seagal, who cares? He's a major movie star. No one cares that he's not Harrison Ford. You guys are going to be guys who wrote a big summer blockbuster, and that opens doors you don't even know are opening around town. Do not act like something bad happened. This is the night your lives change forever. And we look at each other and we're like, you know what? We're idiots. And we didn't fully believe him, but we're like, let's stop being dicks. And he opened the champagne, and we had some champagne. And rarely does a year go by in my life that I don't think of that and think, yeah, JJ was further down the road than we were, and he understood that this was a 100% good thing.
Well, and I mean, it clearly was. For the problems that the movie has, and for the issues that you clearly have and Matt had with the movie, I don't think we'd be talking today without.
No.
And you know that, obviously, clearly, introspectively, you've already come to that conclusion.
Look, Matt went on to a career of directing and writing. that had nothing to do with people going, oh, I loved Under Siege, so I will read your script or give you an opportunity. But it puts you on a level. Now, we didn't continue writing together because he wanted to direct and I wanted to be a writer. So even though we have worked together since then, he directed the pilot of the first show I ever made. So the first series that I ever put on television, Matt directed the pilot. And that was, maybe 10, 12 years after Under Siege. But anyway, we've worked together, but we split up as a writing team. So he had to start his career as a director, and then I had to restart my career as a solo writer. But the fact that my name had been on a movie that opened in theaters, that meant that agents would read my scripts and people would listen to what I had to say. If I had a pitch, they wouldn't necessarily buy it, but it opened a lot of doors that I did not know were opening.
You weren't just a script doctor.
Yeah, it was not like, okay, that dude. And then, yes, it was up to me in my career to then make my mark. It was up to Matt to take his mark and go down his path. And we managed to do those things, even though those represented giant challenges. But yeah, so that was how we felt when Seagal came on to the scene.
So let me ask you something realistically, because you've kind of brought it up, and I'm curious because, again, you and I have never really had conversations about you and your career, which seems like a goddamn shame in some respects, because normally you and I talk about ourselves and our personal lives.
Right.
In your opinion, do you think, because you mentioned the situation that happened where you and Matt kind of took diverging paths. Obviously, you both wrote the script for Under Siege 2 together, but then your careers kind of diverged. For you sitting here now, do you think it's easier for someone who, if it's two screenwriters and one wants to direct and one wants to write, do you think the screenwriter has a harder time overcoming the initial hill and then getting back into it? Or do you think that if you go from writing to directing, do you think he had the harder time? Not he, but like that person would have the harder time, or the screenwriter would have the harder time?
I think he had the harder time. Not for any other reason than that is a more difficult path, because what he wanted to do was, like, if it had just been dark territory and in some insane world someone had given him the opportunity to direct our movie with Harrison Ford in the lead, he would have loved that. He would have done it, and he would have directed it, and I would have produced it, and we would have been an artistic duo making an action movie. But deep down, he knew that action movies weren't necessarily what he wanted to do at that point. He wanted to do kind of smaller character movies, like early Martin Scorsese movies, but not necessarily that. But just, the first movie that he made was The Pallbearer, the movie with David Schwimmer and Gwyneth Paltrow and Barbara Hershey. And it was a sort of a dark comedy. And he wrote that with Jason Katims. And that was all about, I want to write something that I can direct. And so I need to design it in a way that a rational human being could go, all right, we will let a first-time director direct this at a budget that is reasonable. And it's not $100 million, it's $10 million or whatever the budget was. And so he very wisely went that route and then continued writing. And by the way, Matt taught me more about screenwriting than any screenwriting teacher I ever had. And Matt never really wanted to be a writer. He just wanted to be a director, but he realized that to do that and to do the movies he wanted to do, he'd probably have to be writing them. And the way Matt writes is every beat is on the page. Every moment, every thought, nothing is sort of like, then they fight. It's like, if there's a fight, I got to know what that fight is. I got to know how it starts, what happens, and how it ends. And it would drive me crazy. I'm like, well, let's just kind of jazz our way through it and move on to the next and rough in some dialogue. And he's like, nope, page 4 isn't right. We don't go on to page 5 until page 4 is right. And it was excruciating for me. It drove me crazy. I was like, we're never going to get there. But as pages stacked up, I was like, well, this stuff is really good. And it really does give you a feeling of what the movie will eventually be. And so that was the last movie we wrote together. But I had internalized his style. And then when I went to write, it influenced my writing. And over the years, it's influenced it even more. I'd probably say I write more like him now than I did 20 years ago, because it's an extremely effective way to make sure your story gets told, is to make sure every emotional beat is there on the page, and there's no way you can miss it.
So let's go back to this thing you were talking about with Seagal in You Out. So you guys met Seagal.
Yeah, we went to his house.
What was that like?
It was horrible. He is a disaster of a human being. I don't want to get political, but let's just say he's a fucking mess on a level of which we only see every single day coming from Washington.
So what was it like meeting Steven Seagal?
We all went into his house. It was Matt, myself, Gary Goldstein, Lorenzo de Bonaventura. I don't know if John Peters, the famous producer, had been brought onto the film yet. He may have been brought on a little bit later to sort of be the Seagal, right? Because that's the other thing you do for a big star. You hire a giant producer to just be their producer, to just be the person who represents their interests in the movie. So if Seagal ever had a problem, he'd go to John Peters, and then John Peters would go to Lorenzo de Bonaventura at Warner Brothers and go, Steven wants it to be this way, and I agree with him. And then it's just like, okay, well, we got to do it. But you've got to take care of the actor in that way, and this is just another way Hollywood works. So we're at his house, and he begins demonstrating that he is the most vile human being in the world, thinking it's impressing us. He's abusing his own personal staff, his home staff, his business staff. He's using every word to describe a woman that is the most offensive and demeaning terms you could think of.
In front of you.
In front of 6 other adult men sitting in his mansion. And everybody, chuckling and ha ha ha, and Matt and I are terrified. Because Matt, look, I'm not a bully boy. Matt isn't. We're about as quiet and introspective, or at least not, we weren't frat guys. We weren't on sports teams. We were guys who wore sweaters and talked about movies. Okay, that's just who we were. We were, nerds, geeks, whatever you want to call it. We were not impressed with this. We thought he was a total fucking asshole. And of course, what are we going to say? So then we leave, and we're like, okay, that was terrifying. And so we are assigned a rewrite. So in March and April of 1993, we did a final rewrite. We didn't realize it was final, but we did a final rewrite based on a small handful of notes from the studio and turned it in. And immediately were informed we were no longer, our services were no longer required. And we were made to understand, guys, you have written a beautiful script. We love you. You're amazing. We're your friends. Come to Warner Brothers anytime you want. But we now have to engage in the process of hiring other writers to rewrite you based on whatever Seagal happens to feel like that day. So in succession, 3 other writers came on. Brian Helgeland was the first, Jonathan Lemkin was the second, and Mitchell Kapner was the third. And they were all brought in. Brian Helgeland did a pass, and then the next writer, and then all the way through Mitchell Kapner, and it probably took a year. And every time those guys wrote a draft, Warner Brothers sent us the draft and said, "What do you think?" Now, this is
as if it mattered.
Well, it's really weird because we thought it was the cruelest. It's like you're literally like taking our girlfriend and sexually abusing her and smearing makeup all over her face and then saying, "Okay, what do you think?" It's like, what do you think we think? You're destroying something that we love. But then we had to get over ourselves and go, well, what are they really doing here? What was this rewrite really about? Well, clearly they're bringing in the military, and they're bringing in Casey Ryback, and the character's past, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying to do that. And okay, like, what are they? And then so we'd give them notes. Then they hired someone else. Then they hired someone else. So I would say that Helgeland's draft we liked the least. Jonathan Lemkin's draft was less egregiously terrible. in our opinion, of a script that we loved. And then Mitchell Kapner's almost felt like it was beginning to curve back toward ours a little bit. They kept the basic structure, but all of the dialogue and a lot of things that we felt we had calibrated very carefully now felt loose and sort of not as effective structurally as we had hoped, because it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was we need Seagal to have a fight in the kitchen. So scenes were written and sequences were developed and the train stopped and there was mountain climbing and all kinds of weird shit that we never would have done. But we're like, well, we don't get a say. Then they filmed the movie and then they showed it to us. And then it came time to arbitrate for screen credit. Now, what this means is you look at the movie and you go, okay, well, who's the true author of this film in terms of the screenplay? And so they look at the very last script that was the shooting script. And Matt and I went through it and went, okay, none of our dialogue. There's one line of dialogue remaining. And
which line of dialogue is that?
This is your captor speaking.
Who wrote that? Was that you?
It was Matt and I. I don't know who.
Well, that's what I mean. Was it you, as in the two of you? Not.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in the original.
That wasn't Matt Reeves. That was me. No, that was.
You know what they say about success? It has many fathers, but failure is an orphan. Richard.
Right. That's right. No, we wrote that
that's
whole run.
That's the only line of dialogue from the original script.
This is your captor speaking, and that whole run where it's, federal, please remain seated, but, if you do choose to stand up, federal regulations require that we kill you. That whole parody of the pilot,
Sure.
That was us. That was the one line that remained.
Before we get any further with the script, I'm curious, who did you guys envision as the villain of the film? Because I can't imagine you had envisioned Eric Bogosian.
No, we did not, even though he's great.
He's absolutely, Everett McGill and Eric Bogosian are the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that was really fun. And we were kind of glad. We're like, well, yeah, that's interesting casting. I mean, I can't fault that. We weren't picturing Alan Rickman. We had conceived of these guys as like really young, slick Wall Street billionaires boys club dickheads. So we didn't know. It's like, well, I don't know. Is it, James Spader or something? It's like, it's one of those guys.
I could see that.
It's like somewhere in that, where is it Rob Lowe? It's like, we thought, well, that would be fun, actually. Like, what if it was, middle-ish age Harrison Ford going up against pretty boy Rob Lowe, who just has no conscience whatsoever. It's like different generations. We thought, so that's kind of where we were thinking. So anyway, so we sit down and we go through the structure of the movie, and we basically wrote a 25-page document to the Writers Guild saying, while the dialogue does not remain, the themes of the movie, the character relationships, and the basic structure is all there. And then we noted on page 17, blah, 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 on page 19, blah, 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 on page 25, blah, blah, blah. We just went through the whole script. And of the other three writers, from what we understood, only one of them tried to get credit on our movie. And when the Writers Guild read all the drafts and made their arbitration, they decided Richard and Matt are the screenplay authors of this movie. And so we got sole screenwriting credit. Even though not a single line of dialogue except for that one is there, the structure of the movie is exactly the same. And that's what they look for in the Writers Guild. They're like, well, is it essentially the same movie? Is it still about a guy trying to fight off terrorists on a train and save his daughter/niece in the process? Yes, it is. There you go. So we got screen credit, and we have made not a ton of money, but a decent amount of money on that movie. I went to the premiere. Matt didn't, because he was out of town. He may have been either in New York or Europe at the time. But also he was trying to separate himself from the movie to a certain extent. He was like, that's great, but I don't want to crow about that too much, because I'm in the process of trying to make this other movie. And I don't want, if someone doesn't know that I co-wrote Under Siege 2, that's okay. That I'm not leading with that. I'm leading with, here's a new script and I'm going to direct it. And it's a dark romantic comedy. So and I was sort of like, Carl Austin, that lawyer, basically said, you've got a movie coming out next summer. That means you've got a year to write something that you can sell the weekend that movie opens, because that's going to be your window. So I wrote a thriller. I wrote 2 thrillers. The first one I wrote was garbage, and the second one I wrote was really good. It did not sell, and it was never made, but it was a calling card for my writing on my own. And it got me an agent, and eventually it got me my first assignment, which was not in the summer of 95, but that job actually came along in the summer of 1996. And that was the official sort of beginning of my career, being hired to write a movie that I did not already write.
As one half of the team who wrote the film, going to the premiere, what was that like, seeing the film?
I can tell you that when Matt and I saw it, because they screened it for us at Warner Brothers, just like, come down on a Tuesday at noon, watch the movie, so we can check that off the box, of our contractual obligations to the original screenwriters. And again, we were devastated. We're like, this is not a good movie. This is a garbage movie. In other words, this is not Die Hard. Die Hard is a classic of the genre. And at that moment, we thought Under Siege 2 is no good. It's not even as good as Under Siege. It's not very clever. There's not a ton of planting and payoff. It's sometimes it's Morris Chestnut is sort of funny. Everett McGill is, he's just some, henchman. Bogosian's okay. But all we could see was that it wasn't what we wanted it to be. So in that moment, no, I was not happy. But I understood that, well, this is just chapter 1 of a long novel of my career. In the ensuing 25 years, my feelings have changed. Do I think it's a great movie now? No. Do I understand the charms of the movie now? Yeah, I do. Now I can see it. But I'll tell you something else. This is the movie that people, when I talk about what I've done, this movie gets a big reaction. And it almost universally, the reaction is this reaction. It's a guy my age or younger who says, "Oh my God, you wrote Under Siege 2? Me and my dad love that movie." Those exact words. Me and my dad love that movie. And the first time it was said, I laughed. And then the 10th time it was said, I'm like, wow, this is kind of awesome. You know what? A thing that is shared between a father and a son, and it's a goofy action movie, I'm like, that's great. I will take that to the grave with me. They got some enjoyment out of it, and they sat back and watched it a lot less seriously than Matt and I watched it. They sit back and watch it because it's a fun Seagal movie, and it's on a train, and Eric Bogosian, is dialing it up to 11, and it's fun. And I'm like, God, and some kid grows up, and that's a memory he has with his dad. I fucking love it.
I think for me, if I were in your position at this point, what are we, 30 years past 25 years?
25 this year.
25 years later, if that's what you have internalized from it, that's not a bad thing.
Not at all. Yeah, I'm thrilled.
Some people never even have the chance to make something that anyone likes, let alone watches.
So 5 years ago, in 2015, there was a 20th anniversary screening at a theater in Los Angeles, like a second run place. Just a goofy thing. It was just like, hey, we're going to screen this movie. It was not like, at the Cinerama Dome. And I was invited. So I went. Matt didn't go. Again, he was busy. But he had expressed interest. He was like, I do wish I could have gone, because enough other things have happened that this doesn't seem as important as it did. And I went and watched it with people that were half my age. I was in my late 40s then, and I was watching it with people who were, 20, 25 years old. And watching them react to it, and they're watching it like, ooh, this is a weird movie. And loving the shit out of it from this. It wasn't even an ironic place. It was just, again, a place of sort of weird appreciation for this genre of acting, directing, writing, and filmmaking. And then at the end of the movie, I stood up and, was applauded by the, 120 people who had shown up. And then I went up and talked for a little while and answered some questions. And it was really cool. I walked out of there going, you know what? Again, I'm so glad it happened, because it did lead to every other thing that's happened in my career.
And again, ultimately at the end of the day, I think obviously from the way you're telling the story, you've grown a lot. You've grown a lot. Obviously. Well, I mean, look, as someone who creates content, I can understand you essentially being kicked off of your own project, but
yeah, but then being able to circle back, getting screen credit, getting that acknowledgement, and then proceeding from there was extremely lucky. I look back now and I realize we were so lucky, even though we did not want to or pursue a career as a writing team who did action movies. We were so lucky that happened and gave us that boost that got us to the next level that we wanted to get to. And I don't, again, in the span of time and seeing other people who just never made it off the starting blocks and seeing young people now trying to get things done, I value it more and more. The number of lucky things that had to happen in a row for this movie to get made and for our names to be on it and for it to be even a modest hit was winning the lottery 5 times in a row.
Since it seems all the dialogue that you wrote was taken out of the film, is there a scene in the film that you're proud of, or were none of those scenes in the action scenes in the film, are none of them the original creation of the two of you?
I mean, there's a lot of moments of intensity, and I do like what Eric Bogosian brought to it, and I do like the scene of the mace getting sprayed in the guy's face. That actually was in the original draft. It played out a little bit differently, and that's a clever moment that people definitely respond to. I do enjoy Morris Chestnut because he did everything he could to bring humor and heart. I love the fact that that's Katherine Heigl. We never, and the thing is, we were never on set. For 1 minute, we never met a single one of those people. We just literally, they filmed the movie without us and invited us to a screening. That was it. But every time someone attempted humor, every time there was almost a clever moment of suspense or an act of heroism, I love that because I love that in any movie. And so I certainly loved it in this one, even though it was tempered by that feeling of, wow, if they could have only seen the original.
Well, and that's the disappointment, right?
Yeah, but I will say that of all the other lucky things that have happened in my career, the luckiest is having been able to produce things and write things that were treated more faithfully and whose intent was more apparent in the finished product. Television shows, movies like The Mothman Prophecies, that I do get to look at and be proud of. And again, it's like now, 25 years later, I'm proud of Under Siege 2, but I'm more proud of The Mothman Prophecies. I'm more proud of the show Miracles. I'm more proud of certain episodes I've written of other shows that I didn't create, that feel like, well, this is, when I sat down hoping for something, the final product lived up to those hopes in a way that Under Siege 2 didn't. And again, that's very lucky. A lot of people work an entire career and don't get that. So there's not a day goes by that I'm not deeply grateful for the luck that I've had in this business.
Well, and also big thanks to J.J. Abrams for apparently setting you straight.
Yeah, well, it's tough. It's tough when you're trying to do something, and for Matt, your best friend is succeeding beyond everyone's wildest dreams. I mean, that's tough. Obviously they've worked together a lot in their careers and have had tons of fun. But that is funny that he was the voice of the Ghost of Christmas Future. He was the one saying, look, he basically said, if you can't enjoy this, just give it up, because it only gets harder, because then you got to do rewrites you're not happy with. Like, this is the moment you celebrate. You got to celebrate every moment you can possibly celebrate, because that's why you got into this. You got into this to sell a script. If you can't celebrate on the day you sell a script, then what the fuck are you doing here? step aside and let someone else come in who's going to fucking enjoy it. And I did take those words to heart. I got to tell you, now I celebrate everything and I enjoy the process in a way I never did 25 years ago, because my entire ego was at stake in those years. And now enough time has gone by and enough product has been made that I'm like, you know what? I've done some good stuff. Good enough. Now I just like the process. Now it's just fun doing it and seeing how it comes out. Hey, that one's a B-. All right. Well, that one's an A-. Good for me.
I think what we've also realized here, Richard, is we need to talk about Mothman Prophecies, because that's the movie you are proud of.
Yeah, and I'll when and if you ever do that, give your poor listeners a break, but I will come in and tell you the whole story.
Big thanks to Rich Hatem. I'm sure he'll be on soon enough and we can talk all about Under Siege 3 High Rise, the film that was currently going into production from Kulturecast Films. No, if I could pool the money together and defraud enough people, because at this point that's what it would be, I would make that movie in a heartbeat. Because
here's my variation on your plot. Casey Ryback is a broken man and is working at a mall food court when the mall gets taken over by terrorists.
You just pitched Paul Blart Mall Cop with Casey Ryback.
Oh, is that what it was? I haven't seen it.
I mean, aside from the broken man thing, pretty much.
Oh, I guess.
Wait,
yeah.
one better. What if?
Yeah.
What if? Because I'm sure Seagal would bite.
I'm stuck in the 80s, man. That's why I go to the mall.
He would bite at this bait. Steven Seagal is the head of security at an Indian casino. Like a casino.
Oh my God, that's perfect for him.
Right?
Because then we could watch him be all spiritual, like at sort of during the making of process where he's like, and now I'm a member of the tribe with these deeply spiritual people and I'm one of them now.
It would be Under Siege 3, No Reservations. Under Siege 3, Off the Reservation.
Off the reservation. Yeah, no, that's better. That's better.
But who's the villain in that film? Is it Wes Studi?
Of course it is.
or is it Adam Beach?
No, I think Wes Studi, right? Is he still around? He's still kicking? He's still
kicking. I don't know. You can't.
He was on Penny Dreadful a few years ago.
Wes Studi doesn't have the lack of intimidation that because like Bogosian and Tommy Lee Jones aren't to intimidate.
Wes Studi would be the secondary heavy, right?
No, because I think unfortunately Wes Studi is a little old. I mean, he's in his like late 70s.
Oh, okay.
I still think it's Dave Bautista. I mean, Dave Bautista's great. I mean, come on. Like, I would actually pay money to watch Seagal and Dave Bautista. Let me walk this back. I would pay money for Seagal to kill Dave Bautista in 2 seconds. Because undoubtedly that's what would happen.
Most likely. But I want to see them bust up the place.
I mean, like a real hoss fight. Like throwing each other through walls.
Yeah,
throwing each other through panes of glass,
Totally. From one building to another. Yeah.
And you know what? Here, I don't know who the main villain would be, because again, now that we've created another side tangent film, Under Siege 3, Off the Reservation, I don't know who the main villain would be, but all I know is that the main villain in traditional 80s and 90s action film fashion would be thrown out of a window to his death.
Yes. And they all have to fall to their deaths.
Right. And Seagal's final line of the film would have to be...
Oh, Jesus, don't even.
Just wait. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Right? Ben, boy, you could see that.
Would the villain be a Native American, though?
No. It would have to be like a white supremacist group that's like trying to get back at the,
you have Wes Studi playing the owner of the casino,
Right, yeah.
Who gets killed and now he's got to get revenge.
Yeah, like I don't know who you could cast. I mean, again, you could just cast Jim Carrey. What does it matter?
No, not Jim Carrey with this one. It would be somebody else. It'd have to be somebody interesting. I don't know. Dave Bautista should be in there, though.
I don't know who's interesting anymore. Like, movie villains, when it comes to movie villains, the only kind of company that does it anymore, and again, the quality of the villain seems to be reliant on the film that they're in, is the Marvel movies, right? I mean,
yeah.
You've got Jeff Bridges, you've got Kurt Russell.
Like, well, yeah, I mean, they've all been in that. There's such a wide-ranging series of films now that they're able to pull everyone in.
Maybe for this movie, you bring back a old school 80s, 90s action villain and put Ronnie Cox in the movie.
Oh, yeah, he'd be good. I mean, he might be a little old.
Or you just do Christoph Waltz.
Because he has integrity.
I don't know about that.
Well, a little bit more than... Anyway, where are we going with this?
What would you give Under Siege 2, the actual real movie that we watched? What would you give it?
Yeah, out of how many?
5.
5, ooh. Jeez. See, I can't say 3 because that's where most movies sit that are, pretty enjoyable, and I'll watch them again and again. I'm going to say 2.5. How about that? 2.5? I think that's fair. I think it achieves what it sets out to do, but is so lopsided that while I didn't have a bad time watching the movie, I know I don't want to watch it again thanks to Steven Seagal. So 2.5.
Yeah, I would give it a 2.5 as well. I mean, and again, similarly to you, there's a lot of fun things in this movie. Eric Bogosian, Everett McGill, that's it. And
yeah, no, I mean, there's lots of little good performances here and there.
There's some fun character actors.
Kurtwood Smith, we haven't even mentioned Kurtwood Smith is in this movie.
For like a second.
He's great.
Yeah, I mean, again, like he's surrounded by great character actors. Peter Green.
Right,
I mean, we've already mentioned all of them. Like it's not for a lack of casting. It's a specific person being cast that's the problem.
Right. I think the movie has a lot to recommend it. Despite him, there's still a lot to be enjoyed in the film. If it happens to come on, I would not recommend people go see this movie or seek it out. But if it just started playing on your television, there are worse ways you could spend your time.
I agree. Well, on that note, that is the end of Steven Seagal July. We're putting a cap on Steven Seagal. Maybe not permanently in my case. We'll talk about that in the wrap-up. But let us talk about what the next film genre we're going to be covering in August is on the Kulturecast.
कितने आदमी थे? सरदार, 2 आदमी थे।
ठाकुर साहब, शायद ही कोई ऐसा जेल हो जिसमें ये दोनों ना गए हों। ये वीरू है और ये जयदेव। दोनों के दोनों पक्के बदमाश, 1 नंबर के चोर, छठे हुए गुंडे हैं।
मुझे तो सब पुलिस वालों की सूरतें एक जैसी लगती हैं।
मुझे गब्बर चाहिए, जिंदा।
गब्बर सिंह? वो मशहूर डाकू?
जब बच्चा रात को रोता है तो माँ कहती है बेटे सो जा नहीं तो गब्बर सिंह आ जाएगा।
हाँ, वही। मुझे सिर्फ गब्बर चाहिए।
जो डर गया समझो मर गया।
कोई पुरानी दुश्मनी?
ये पूछना तुम्हारा काम नहीं। लोहा गर्म है, मार दो हथौड़ा।
साहब अभी भी वक्त है, सोच लीजिए।
That's right. In August, we are finally taking the plunge and taking a look at some films from India. We're going to be talking about Bollywood films in August. And the first film is a Bollywood classic, one might say the finest example of Bollywood film. We're going to be talking about Sholay, and I cannot wait to talk about it. I have heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm positively excited to talk about Bollywood films as well. And I should be actually joined by none other than Rich Hatem. So there you go. He is joining me right. Yeah, it's two podcasts back to back. So I'm looking forward to talking about some Bollywood films with him and kind of seeing. Until then, where can people find you, Father Malone?
Oh, you can always check me out over on my YouTube channel, Oughtfive Films, OUGHTFIVE, Quite a lot of content on there, movie reviews and weird skits. And hey, I'm monetized. So there you go. Head over there.
And that's a bigger deal than it sounds, folks.
Yeah. There's been trials and tribulations. But anyway, check me out there. You can hear me over on Chronicles from the Crypt, the Tales from the Crypt podcast about the HBO television series that Chris and I are doing. We're now in season 6, getting near the end there, buddy.
No, two more seasons, man, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, and you can also hear me over on Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast, which you and I do together with Mr. Mike White. And check me out on all of those places. As
for me, Twitter is where you can find me. Like I mentioned, we're putting together right now a little Steven Seagal podcast. So if you're into Seagal or you want to join us in a journey through the filmography of one Mr. Steven Seagal, that podcast is forthcoming, and there will be announcements on my Twitter to follow, but that's a thing that's coming up. I don't know how we're going to address the movies that we've already watched and talked about. I'm sure we'll talk about them again. Maybe we'll have new things to talk about. But yeah, Twitter is where you can find me. Scary Stories We Tell podcast. Like Father Malone mentioned, Dreams for Sale, Chronicles from the Crypt. They're all there. Follow me on Twitter. I talk about everything and I plug everything that I work on there. Casualty_Chris is that Twitter handle. Kulturecast.com is where you can find the podcast. Patreon.com/Kulturecast is where you can kick a couple dollars our way to keep the lights on. iTunes and Google Play is where you can leave a review, and you should. Good or bad, I'd like to hear all of them. And big thanks to you, Father Malone, for helping me round out the month.
My pleasure, kind of.
We'll catch you on the next episode.